Member for Port Darwin. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I stand today in support of the Treasurer's Appropriation Bill. The budget handed down in this House by the Treasurer on Tuesday was the most honest budget the Territory has seen in recent history. It is a budget that does what previous budgets under the former Labor government failed to do, include in forward-year forecasts the actual cost of delivering both services and infrastructure in the Territory. When in government, those on the other side, Madam Speaker, took a laissez-faire approach to budget forecasts, electing to selectively take up expenditure on an annual basis and significantly underfunding an infrastructure program, which is why we are now faced with unforgivable budget blowouts on projects such as the Shiplift and State Square Art Gallery. In the portfolios I'm responsible for, ad hoc announcements of ill-thought-out programs such as the Safe Sleeping program in Central Australia, an apparent attempt to convince Territorians they had programs in place to deal with kids out on the street in the middle of the night, where instead of negotiating with existing service providers who had capacity to offer such services, they threw good money after bad, in one instance doubling funding to one provider to provide services simply so they could make a smoke and mirrors announcement at a cost of $500,000 to Territorians. Madam Speaker, in reviewing the effectiveness of that program, it was identified that in one 3-month period, only one young person accessed the service at a cost to Territorians in excess of $100,000. Madam Speaker, the opposition leader in her reply failed to mention that it was decisions such as these that led to the dire financial state the Territory is in today. Madam Speaker, the Department of Children and Families leads the Northern Territory Government's responses to homelessness, domestic, family and sexual violence and child protection. Our plan is clear: reduce crime, rebuild the economy, restore our lifestyle. In my portfolio, that means investing in strong systems, acting early, supporting families to take responsibility, prioritising the well-being of children and young people, and for people who use violence to be made accountable. The Northern Territory is a place of resilience and community strength. However, we face complex social challenges that demand real solutions and sustained commitment. Madam Speaker, I am proud that our government has secured significant funding for the department from our Commonwealth partners, including $135.9 million under the National Partnership Agreement on Northern Territory Remote Aboriginal Investment, which will support remote safe spaces, family support services and child and family centres from 2025 to 2031. Madam Speaker, Budget 2025 sets a course of reform that addresses the root causes of crime and increases safety for all Territorians as our key priority. It delivers funding certainty and restores focus on safety, accountability and early intervention. The Department of Children's and Families 25-26 budget includes $71.5 million to respond to domestic, family and sexual violence, including prevention, early intervention and recovery. $73.2 million to support people experiencing homelessness. $204.1 million to protect children and support families, including out-of-home care and family support services. $700,000 for emergency services and disaster recovery, and $23.4 million for corporate, regulatory and shared services. Madam Speaker, I will now talk to the programs and services that the Department of Children and Families will deliver. When children are on the streets late at night, something is not right at home and we have a responsibility to act. That's why this government launched the Circuit Breaker program, an intensive wraparound response that supports at-risk young people and holds their families accountable through the development of family responsibility agreements. Madam Speaker, we know that unacceptable rates of domestic violence in the Territory, which is why it is no surprise that violence in the family home is a common contributing factor for young people displaying at-risk behaviour. Circuit Breaker enables us to identify these situations and provide holistic solutions with tailored support for young people and their families who may be experiencing violence and beginning to use violence, as well as connecting families to domestic violence specialist services early. Since its commencement in Darwin and Alice Springs in late 2024 and in Katherine in early 2025, Circuit Breaker cases have supported 141 families with more than 80 family responsibility agreements established. This initiative is showing results, which is why we are committing $8.3 million per annum in ongoing funding to support full-time staff. Madam Speaker, Circuit Breaker staff operate 24/7 in Alice Springs and Darwin, assessing young people found unsupervised or engaging in antisocial behaviour. These young people are either safely returned home, or if home is not safe, the young person will stay overnight in our safe, supervised accommodation. Either way, formal discussions are held with parents and family members to identify and address the underlying causes of their child's behaviour, such as alcohol misuse, family violence or financial hardship in the home. Circuit Breaker staff then develop a tailored response for the family with other services required, such as education, health or non-government service providers is also involved. This is early intervention with purpose. We are identifying at-risk young people before they enter the criminal justice system, setting clear expectations for their parents and providing the case management and support services to support behaviour change, breaking the cycle of youth crime before it starts or escalates. Circuit Breaker gives families every opportunity to accept help and access the support they need, which is why we will continue to expand the program across the Territory. Importantly, Madam Speaker, where families cannot provide for the safety and well-being of their children, action can be taken under the Care and Protection of Children Act 2007. Madam Speaker, every Territorian deserves to feel safe, and those impacted by domestic, family and sexual violence must have access to the right support at the right time. This year's budget addresses historic underinvestment in domestic violence and builds a sustainable, place-based response across the Territory. We are delivering around a record $36 million annual ongoing investment into domestic violence services, providing certainty to frontline service providers and the people who rely on them. This includes $5.2 million annually for specialist domestic violence services to strengthen an integrated response, including case management, court support, therapeutic services and outreach. $1.5 million for a domestic family sexual violence training and resource centre offering skill development, resource hubs and practice supervision. $3.4 million in community-based behaviour change programs, providing tailored services to people who use violence to educate them about what drives their abusive behaviour and hold them accountable for their actions. $1.9 million for rehabilitation and behaviour change programs for perpetrators in our prison settings, such as the Recognising Anger, Gaining Empowerment and Family Violence programs. $0.85 million for improving outcomes for victim survivors, including specialist prosecution and witness support. Over $2.5 million for whole-of-government policy coordination and governance functions. We're also investing $1.4 million for the Primary Prevention Grants Program, $250,000 for implementation and embedding of domestic family sexual violence risk assessments in universal services, $500,000 annually to support improvements for remote safe houses, and $250,000 for innovation and community engagement events. These are Territory government investments, not Commonwealth funding, and they demonstrate our commitment to long-term reform, sustainability and local service delivery. Our program also includes $500,000 to provide culturally safe, gender-specific, trauma-informed counselling, $400,000 annually to increase reach and capacity of the health system to recognise, respond and refer victim survivors and people at risk, over $1 million to continue the Domestic Family Violence Specialist Court in Alice Springs, including funding for court, legal and non-legal support services, which will expand over time to other locations, and a total $2.5 million ongoing funding for these services in multiple locations. Madam Speaker, we know tackling domestic violence requires close collaboration with our service delivery partners, which is why we're expanding our co-responder model with the Northern Territory Police Force. This model ensures domestic family sexual violence specialists work alongside the NT Police Force and child protection staff to follow up with victim survivors and those people who use violence, ensuring risk is assessed and services are activated as quickly as possible. This follow-up is crucial to breaking the cycle of domestic violence, and we are investing $6.26 million in 25-26, increasing to $7.7 million by 29-30. The Family Safety Framework will also be strengthened with $1.6 million in 25-26. Madam Speaker, housing insecurity and homelessness are serious challenges across the Northern Territory, particularly for women and children impacted by violence and young people leaving care. In 25-26, we are investing $73.2 million in homelessness services. This funding reflects a partnership between the Commonwealth and Northern Territory governments, with $43.8 million of our total investment provided through bilateral funding under the National Agreement on Social Housing and Homelessness. These funds will support a network of specialist homelessness services, including crisis accommodation, transitional housing, tenancy support and outreach. The Department of Children and Families is working closely with community organisations to ensure that our funded homelessness responses reflect the needs of the community and that they serve and provide the greatest possible impact. Madam Speaker, the Department of Children and Families leads the Northern Territory Government's response to child protection, homelessness and domestic violence, and therefore plays a critical role in our government's strategic agenda to reduce crime, rebuild the economy and restore our lifestyle. The department is delivering evidence-based, place-based services that address the root causes of crime and build safer families and communities for all. This budget backs our government's commitment to invest in frontline services where they are needed and puts the well-being of children and families at the centre of everything we do. Underpinning the amazing hard work being done to address the root causes of crime by working with young people and families is the growth of the Territory economy. With economic growth comes opportunities to expand the services we offer and reach more and more families to accelerate, as the Treasurer has said, turning the ship. Madam Speaker, my other portfolio responsibilities include international education, migration and population, along with workforce development. Skilled migrants and international students are critical for the Territory economy in growing our population and our workforce. Over the period to 2040, the Department of Treasury and Finance forecasts up to 13,000 full-time equivalent workers are required over and above business-as-usual workforce growth. These workers will include upskilled locals, attracting skilled workers from interstate and skilled and semi-skilled workers from overseas. Skilled migrants and international students make valuable contributions to the Territory economy and lifestyle. They are vital to the Northern Territory's economy and its ability to address growing workforce shortages. The CLP government are supporting attracting workers and students to the Northern Territory to grow our population and address workforce shortages. Madam Speaker, as you well know, the Territory is a great place to live, work and study. Access to skilled labour is a key component of economic growth, and nationally, labour accounts for around 48% of output. Each skilled migrant worker in the Territory is estimated to contribute $108,000 per annum to the Territory's economic output. Rebuilding the Territory economy is contingent on securing more skilled workers. Around 85% of migrant inflows are directly or indirectly using skilled worker migration pathways such as the NT DALMA and GSM program. The department provide the Department of Home Affairs with endorsements of employers and nominations for prospective skilled migrants for visas under several schemes. The Northern Territory Designated Area Migration Agreement, a demand-driven migration agreement between federal and NT government. Territory business can use this program to sponsor overseas workers for positions they are unable to fill with the local workforce. Over the past 3 years, the Northern Territory Designated Area Migration Scheme has significantly increased the number of endorsements, rising from 99 to 220, and 121% increase to address skill shortages in sectors like hospitality, childcare, and aged and disability care. The General Skilled Migration Program allows skilled foreign workers to migrate to Australia without requiring employer sponsorship. The Territory Government nominates foreign skilled workers for the permanent or the provisional visa. This program has also seen an increase in allocation from 650 to 1,600 nominations, reflecting the NT's growing demand for skilled workers. The Territory is also a participant in the Pacific Australia Labour Market Scheme, better known as the PALM, which allows businesses to hire low to semi-skilled workers from the Pacific region and Timor-Leste. Attracting and retaining skilled workers is a high priority for the NT, given its small population and increasing competition for skilled labour. Key activities supporting worker attraction include targeted campaigns in domestic and international markets supported by platforms like Worker Connect, which links businesses with skilled workforce. That is why our government, Madam Speaker, has allocated $2 million over the next 2 years to support these programs. So critical are they to the success of rebuilding our economy. Worker Connect is essential for matching of businesses with international talent. And later this month, the Northern Territory Government, together with industry, will deliver online seminars to attract more workers to the Territory from the UK, Ireland and South Africa. The UK, Ireland and South African information sessions are part of our Global Worker Attraction Program, which is designed to raise the profile of the Northern Territory and promote it as a desirable place to live and work. Further, we will be undertaking an in-person jobs expo delivered in New Zealand later this year, capitalising on the transferability of New Zealand work rights into Australia. This program aims to assist Territory employers experiencing recruitment difficulties to fill jobs with skilled and semi-skilled workers. These initiatives help boost worker retention and support long-term workforce growth, critical to the Northern Territory's ability to grow its economy into the future. The funding announcement in our 25, 26 and 26-27 budget will continue to resource these programs, allowing timely processing of applications under DARMA and GSM. Our international education, marketing and program delivery will also assist in this area. In 2023, it contributed $155 million to the Territory's economic output and supported over 1,300 jobs. This sector is projected to contribute $280 million by 2026, positioning it as the Territory's second largest service export by revenue. International students also provide essential labour for industries like retail, hospitality and tourism, contributing significantly to the service sector, especially during peak seasons. To maintain and expand this sector, the NT Government is focused on international student marketing and engagement programs, aiming to achieve 6,000 enrolments by 25-26. Again, our commitment under this budget demonstrates our absolute belief that this is an area that the Northern Territory must expand and grow into. These efforts that are being undertaken with the funding that has been provided in this year's budget and going forward into the 26-27 year will enable us to secure a skilled workforce, foster economic development, increase the Territory's population and create a more sustainable and prosperous future. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, this budget delivers action, certainty and security for all Territorians who deserve to live in a safe and prosperous community.